Greetings, salutations, and all good things in between. What's up, everyone? Matt here. Happy Friday. Hope you're having a good one. Hope you're getting a lot of stuff done. Hope you're making a lot of progress on your apps, getting out, enjoying the weather. Yeah. So what do we got going on this week? So Shopping Cart 7.2, thing I did a couple of weeks ago, that's out. I finally released that. I'll go over that sample app really quick. I'm going to review your comments from YouTube, of course. That's lots of good stuff over there. And if you've been in AppSheet, you probably noticed there's some new stuff over there. So I'm going to definitely go over what's been happening in the news. And of course, put your comments in the chat section, right? Put your questions in the chat section. At the end of the stream, I'll go over them. All right, everybody, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Let's get to it. Still having a little problems with that ending scene thing. It doesn't like to come back. Anyways, hey, thanks for joining, everybody. So, first thing I want to talk about today, right? A couple of weeks ago, I talked about how the shopping cart app that I had put out, specifically version number 7, where I was trying to fill in all the blanks for like the totals and everything. Well, it was woefully inaccurate. It just wasn't fitting the bill. You know what I mean? So I redid it a couple of weeks ago. I finally got around to finalizing all the little things that I did over there. And so in the description of this video, there is a link to Shopping Cart 7.2, the totals redo. And I just kind of want to go over real briefly what it is that I did inside this app, because I actually did do a few other things afterwards that I smoothed the little things out. So,
where are you going?
Another way.
That was the wrong button. So, real quick, if we just go and look under the hood for the 7.2 shopping cart app, the things that I want to point out, I largely talk about everything that I've done inside the info section here. So you can go through here and find out everything that's done, but I just want to kind of point a few things out. So obviously I put in all of the stuff from the previous video is still here, right? Where I had individual prices for the products. And then I also included the ability to have a product price type where you could, if you wanted to do a product by weight, right? You could have that option now and even choose what unit of measure do you want to use? Pounds, kilograms, inches, like you fill in the blank, whatever you want. So that's there. That was what I put in the original stream. The thing that I changed was if you go to the order table and you look at the editable column, right? Basically what I did is I realized, well, I should probably lock down these orders after the status has been marked as complete. That way you can't go back to the line item and say, oh, I'm going to change that after we finish the order, right? Can't do that. It's been locked in type of thing. So I went through and I locked down the order and the order details. If we go look at the order details, you can see these have a whole bunch of things on them too. Excuse me. I left a few columns open, like the order detail notes. You'll notice that it's completely editable over here. There's no formula like there is up here. I did that so that, after the fact, even after you mark something as complete and done, sometimes you still need to be able to add notes. So that's why that's there. Other than that, the last thing that I added in was I noticed that so when I have a product that's already a part of the shopping cart, so like this one, you see the green check, that means that I've already put product number 1 inside my building order. If I go and I look, you can see we have product number 1. I noticed that when I was tapping on the thing, it brings up this input box here, but it wasn't bringing up the specifics for the item that I clicked on. What it was originally set to do was to run the input on the last item entered into the shopping cart, which doesn't work if I'm not clicking on the last item. You follow me? So what I had to do here is if I just go and I look, So this customer products card view has this, right here in the white space, has this tap this product thing, right? So if we go and we look at that on the products, customer products. I was like, wait, it's not showing the thing. Customer products, here we are. So tap, right? It's this ref set input quantity thing. I had to change this. And so what I'd done, ref set input quantity, the thing that I had to do is I had to go through here and I had to set this so that it would do a lookup of the product that I'm clicking on. So like I click on product number 5, it needs to do product number 5. I need to look that up in the building order details slice and get the actual record. So that was the only major change that I did to the shopping cart 7.2. And all of this really just kind of smooths out a little bit of the roughness that was there and fills in some of the gaps that were left way back in the beginning. Because these things should have honestly been caught and put in there like right at the very beginning. You know what I mean? But anyways, that's the updates that I've done to the shopping cart 7.2. You can check that out. It's on my profile, link in the description. That's all I have for this little front section. Not a whole lot going on with me right now. Let's move on to the YouTube comments. There's a lot of really good comments this week on the video that I released on Tuesday. If you haven't seen that one yet, it's a snippet from a previous live stream where I go over how you can execute a, how it's basically, this is, retrospect, I've come to figure this out. It's basically a similar version of the quick update system, but it runs in automation instead. Because it's still the same idea. Push the button and it updates the records, right? But it's running through automation. So I've kind of crystallized on that after the fact. And I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. But anyways, that's the video that I put out on Tuesday. It shows how you can run an update action on a set of rows, but instead of doing it through the app, so I have to wait for all of the sync and everything, it does it through automation. So it's lightning fast. There's been some comments on that. If we go and we look at that, the first one here is from Pablo Elias Silva, and he says, I think that for free accounts, this system only allows the update of 1,000 rows, but more if you're in, if you have a different license. So what he's specifically talking about there is, right, I'm using automation to run an action on a set of rows, right? So there is a limit to the number of rows that I can do, but it's not based on your account, at least as far as the documentation shows. If we show here in the process automation limits page, the maximum number of rows for a deployed app for each row in this table, which is what you have to turn on in order for this to like do the on each, right? You with me? It's 10,000. The 1,000 that you're thinking about there, Pablo, is for prototype apps, right? So keep that in mind. But yeah, so you can only process 10,000 rows in this way. But I'll be honest, there's very few instances where I'm ever updating 10,000 rows like that. Like at most, maybe 1,000 or 2. And even that's like rare case, only happens once in a blue moon because we messed something up or like there was a core change, you know what I mean? Like it's pretty rare that that sort of thing happens. But anyways, that's the first little comment that I had. The next one on the same video here comes from Jared Mazzis, and he says, I waited for 532 rows to update this morning. Now I don't have to do that anymore. Thanks, Matt. Prior to this little trick hack thing that I put out, right, if you wanted to run a quick update on all of your rows, this would have been done client side, like in the app, which means just like what Jared was saying here, if I had 532 rows that I was updating, that's 532 rows that I have to wait for that to sync. Now you don't have to do it. You're welcome, buddy. I love it. I love trying to get things faster, right? That's what I'm all about. The next comment comes from Mariano Diaz. It's from a video where I show how you can control the add button. So that's that system generated add that's underneath an inline view for like the child records when I'm looking at a detail view. For instance, I'm on the order and I have a list of order details. Under the list of order details, there's two little buttons, view and add. I have a video out there that shows you how you can take control over that. And Mariano says, thank you. I didn't find a solution to restrict the add action. With your method, I can hide the action and restrict the new add. Perfect. The method I describe in this video is not making use of the system generated add action. It's hiding that and creating your own version, because then you can do whatever you want with it. Trying to make use of the system generated add action, you can in certain circumstances make that work, but largely it's pretty rough. I'll just say that, right? Willow Mobile Systems is chimed in here. He finally saw the special guest when I had Steve on the first time. He says, just came across this video. Great conversation. You both are exceptional contributors to the citizen developers of AppSheet. Steve, thank you so much for the shout out. I was moved by your recognition. If you're in the community at all, you will definitely have seen Willow Mobile Systems. It's got that really cool willow tree looking icon for his thumbnail. All kinds of good comments, lots of really good help. Man, dude really knows what he's talking about. Anyways, last one that I got here is from Jared. It's for a short that I put out where I'm showing how I'm using hot linking with action looping to accomplish some crazy sort of stuff. And he's asking me, what is the first thing that I'm doing when I'm executing off whatever's happening here? Okay, well, I have the app here ready to go. I've actually changed this app since I recorded that little short, but Jared, to give you a insight of what's going on. So there's two parts to this, to the system that I was doing, right? Just to kind of get everybody on the same page, the idea is I have a scheduling app here. And so I have locations, and inside the location, if I go all the way down here, I have this list of standard time slots. And the idea is I wanted an easy way where I could create these one time and then copy those over, right? So the method in order to make that happen requires two things. First, you gotta flag the things that you wanna copy, right? And then you need the loop in order to go through and do all of the copying. So if I go and I show you the first part. So the first part of this is like, if I look at the details of one of these standard time slots, you can see I have this action here. And this action says flag for copying. And what that does, so this is the first part of the chain. Let me see, so location times, let me get to the right layer. Location, time slots, here we go. Okay, so you can see I have two actions on here that I made myself. One that sets the form type to copying, and then one that simply clears the form type, right? The idea is when I tap this button, all it does is it sets the form type for the record that I'm clicking on to copying. Part one. Part two, if I go and I look at my slices and I look at my time slots, you can see I have this slice here that says form type equal copying. This holds the records that I just flagged, right? So then the idea now is I can go through and I can flag X number of those records and hold them in that slice. Then when I'm ready and I have all of the things that I want to copy over there in that global variable, that's the hot linking side of things. Once I'm done with that, I can then run a loop over every single one of those items, right? And just to fill that in, it's looping, right? So go to any of the looping videos or any of the looping things you can find in the community that talk about it. That's what you got to do. So if I just I got a couple of loops that run on this one little thing, but if I just focus on the room loop, right? So the way the loops, like all loops function this way. I got three parts to them. I have the loop action, I have the make action, and the repeat. The make action is the thing that's doing the part that I need it to do. And so like this is the meat and potatoes. And so what I'm doing with this one is this one's really, really simple. So it's actually kind of a poor example, if you will, but like the way that this loop runs is it's strictly based on numbers. I've specified that I have a number of rooms that I want to make, say like 5, and then I've got this list of related rooms and I'm counting that, and then this loop needs to keep going as long as the count of the things I've created is less than the number that I said I need, right? So that's how this one's working. I don't think, let me check the other loop in here. So I've got a room loop and a week loop. The week loop here makes use of the index sort of logic here, where I'm saying, here's a list of all of the days of the week, right? And then I'm gonna create a record for each day in that, for each of these days. And so that's what this bottom part is, this related weekly schedules, day of the week, right? So this blue part creates a list of all of the days of the week record I've created, right? And so that day of the week is literally the word Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. And so that creates a list of the days of the week. I have the original list is the red part. Take the original list minus the blue list, and what's left, right? Take the first thing out of that. That's the thing I need to make. And then do that again, and then do that again, and then do that again. So that's the loop. Let me know if you have any further questions. Looping is a really difficult, hard thing to kind of get right. If you're struggling with that, I have a whole bunch of videos. The most recent one that I put out, though, I'll put a link here eventually, will show you how it's an order of operations things. If you do it in this certain order, it really makes the whole process a lot easier. Check that out when you get a chance. That's the last thing that I've got for this section. Now, the big element, right? There's been a lot of things in AppSheet news this week. A lot of exciting things coming out. And let's take a look. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to go over, I bet if you've been on your My Apps page anytime in this week, you've probably noticed that there's a new toggle up on top that says databases. Yeah, I had the lucky opportunity to sit down with Shirley, the person who made the announcement in the community. She's a product manager that's working on the database team. And, you know, we just kind of had a quick little discussion about it and get a little intro into what's going on. Let's take a look. Okay, and with me today, I have Shirley. She is the person that made the official announcement in the community. Thanks for joining us, Shirley.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're streaming in from, but great to be here.
Thanks for joining us. So just to really kind of dive in and just give us kind of like a high level summary about, you know, what this new feature is, where we think it's, where you intend it to go, and, you know, just some high level basics type stuff. But before we get to that, maybe introduce yourself and tell us, you know, what it is that you do over there at Google and AppSheet.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a product manager on the team. I was actually from Toronto, so I grew up in Canada, and then I moved to the States for work. And I've been at AppSheet actually since January, so it hasn't been too long, but things have definitely been fast-paced and fun. I'm really aligned with AppSheet's mission of empowering not just developers to make applications and automate solutions. So that's really what drawn me to the team.
The database thing, right? So could you give us like maybe a summary of like what prompted all of this to come about?
Yeah, so about probably a year ago, over a year ago, we were kind of doing some user research on, what can we do to help make app creators more successful? What are some of the pain points they have? And then also just looking into the general no-code citizen developer market right now. And we found a gap within our platform. And basically, before our AppSheet databases, we didn't have a native database, and we didn't have one that was suitable for citizen developers, because you have Google Sheets, which is really easy to use. It's unstructured, but really easy to manipulate. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have something like Firebase or a SQL database that's a little more complex, takes more time to set up. So we found that there's a gap in that spectrum of what's being offered today, and we wanted to fill that with AppSheet Database.
If we go to like the database maintenance side of things, right? So if you have like a SQL server, there's all kinds of like maintenance types of things that you can do, and then like performance monitoring and upgrades and things. So I'm curious, is there anything of that's going to be kind of taken care of for us in the back end?
Yeah, I would say for that, like database maintenance stuff, we lean more towards the Sheets side of the spectrum.
Okay.
In the spectrum that we discussed before. There is ability to perform performance analysis or do audits and to see like what kind of actions have been done on your database. But in kind of the general sense, we lean more towards Sheets as a very simple rudimentary database in that sense.
How big of a database are we talking here? I noticed there are some limits that are put on it now while it's in the preview. But when it goes into general release, like how big of a database are we talking that we could use this solution for?
Yeah, so the reason we set limits during public preview is because we want to make sure that we're doing sufficient testing, and we're still adding features to the database too. We're still making performance optimizations and stuff like that. So we're trying to kind of keep the public preview contained so that we can really understand how big or what limits we want to choose for general release. And that really depends on the use cases too that people are using this database for. We know that enterprise customers have different needs, so they probably need a larger database versus maybe a small and medium business. So we really need your feedback here to understand, like, are the limits we have right now severely low? Are they not going to suit your use case? Or what kind of limits are you looking for when we release to the general public?
Yeah, I can see how this is really going to be like a synergistic type thing moving forward.
So yeah, for sure. Like, even for not just the size of the database, but features too, like if there are certain friction or questions or frustrations you have with the user interface, we definitely want to hear about that as well. And I'm sure the community and viewers here too will help us improve this over time so that we can make sure all app creators are successful.
So just thinking about, future expandability of this feature, we're talking about, database instances and things of this nature. Will we be able to connect to these database instances using other kind of third-party software? Like, you can connect to a SQL server. There's a host of different programs you can use to connect to it. Will we be able to do something similar here?
Yeah, so this kind of relates back to the AppSheet platform. So as you know, like the AppSheet platform has many different connectors. You can pull in data from other sources like Salesforce. So you could still use all of AppSheet's connectors to kind of connect your database and your app to those places. And using AppSheet automation, you can also trigger app script functions too. So I know that's been also a popular question. So you could use something like AppSheet automation to trigger some AppSheet app script project that you create based on an action from your database, and then also write back to your database as well. And then finally, since the AppSheet databases is part of the AppSheet platform, you can use the AppSheet API to read and write from the database directly.
How will sync time compare? Because you mentioned that this is like an in AppSheet thing, versus like Google Sheets where, you know, there's a Google Sheet API that there's all this like loop that has to happen. Could we expect sync time to be a little shorter here, or maybe variably the same, I guess?
Yeah, that's definitely one of our goals. Performance is very top of mind for us, and we know, you know, if this is something that's integrated in AppSheet, there is expectation this works great for AppSheet apps specifically. So for now, we have enabled something that does speed up syncing for apps. So we have enabled that for our databases. It's coming to Sheets in the future too, but for now we started with databases. But yes, the goal is to be more performance than Sheets, especially for larger data sets too. So yeah, we are continuously trying to improve our performance, definitely before GA. So would love to see over time too if our users notice that change.
A little teaser there, a little thing coming for Google Sheets. Ooh. One question somebody asked was, are there any data types that aren't supported? I went through and I looked at the list of the column types in there, and it looked like it was basically the same list of column types in AppSheet.
Exactly. Yeah. So the main goal with AppSheet Database is to support, you know, AppSheet app creators. So all the column types you see there are the ones that are also available for AppSheet apps. We've thrown in a couple of new ones, or some that are more specific to the database specifically, like a enum of dropdown type, or a enum of tags. So there are a couple of differences, but in general, we do want to support all of the AppSheet types inside the database as well.
Fair enough. And so like, what about like the actual files? If somebody uploads, say, a file type or like an image or something like that, are they stored in the database or somewhere else?
Yeah, so they're not stored in the database. Basically, what you're doing when you try to link file attachments, such as like signatures, videos, or images, you're really just linking the URL to them or the file path to them. So it's very similar to when you're building an app using Sheets as a data source. You would write or put in the file path of your file into the cell. Yeah, so we're not hosting your files. Your files are probably hosted in something like Google Drive, or if it's a video, maybe YouTube. Yeah.
That makes sense. Somebody was asking, like, would we be able to modify things using an app script? But you already kind of talked about that. I think what they were specifically asking was, will we be able to modify like the database? Could I add a column to the database using a script or something?
Yeah, no. And yeah, for that, I think the AppSheet API is kind of limited in that sense, where it's more like reading and writing rows, not necessarily like creating new columns or tables.
Right. So it's the same thing along the lines, just like if you're working with a Google Sheet, like you can't add a column and do all of that stuff. Same thing. I mean, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. This seems like it's going to be a great addition to the AppSheet ecosphere. When do you guys plan on this coming out for general release?
Yeah, so right now we're targeting early next year. That really depends on the feedback that we get, the kind of requests that we get from customers as well on what needs to be done before we release. So a little TBD on feedback, but we're really, really hoping beginning of next year is when we can release this to the general public.
It'll be exciting when this comes out. If people wanted to learn more about this and be able and stay in the know about what's going on, where could they find out?
Yeah, so I would say our release notes on the AppSheet community is probably the key place where you'll find out not just about this feature, but other features too, what's rolling out, what are some fixes that are coming out, so release notes. The second place would be just the AppSheet community in general. You know, other PMs will be making posts too for other launches. And then check out a little bit of our Workspace blog. So Google Cloud and Workspace also have their blogs. We'll be sharing some information there as well. And then lastly, the AppSheet YouTube channel. We will hopefully get some demo videos up there too, so that people can see the AppSheet database in action.
All right. Well, this is fantastic. Shirley, I want to thank you for joining, giving us all of this information. I know it's going to help a lot of people. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, see you in the community.
Yes, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so that happened earlier this week. Huge shout out and thanks to Shirley for taking the time out of her busy schedule to hop on that video chat and answer a few questions. If you haven't had the opportunity to peruse what this new feature is all about, if you go to the announcement, there's a lot of really good information on here about it. And if you go to your My Apps page, this is where you're probably going to see, it's right up here, there's this new toggle for you that says databases. And if you go to that, it's where you can create your first database. So if I just kind of hop in here and make one really quick, we can kind of look and see what this is all about. So there's a lot going on here. It's actually pretty cool if you ask me. I kind of like what's going on here. Just like Shirley said, it's kind of like a middle ground between a Google Sheet, which is just kind of like no man's land. You can do whatever you want over there. It's completely unstructured, versus a SQL Server where things are much more restrictive. You know what I mean? This is like a nice middle ground where it's a little flexible, but it's a little restrictive. It'd be interesting to see what comes out of this, but you can see we've got the different columns here. If I want to add a column, right? And if we look at the types, just like I was saying earlier, everything inside here is basically the exact same. I'm wondering where, she mentioned a different enum type of like tags or something. I'll have to explore that later. But anyways, so if we just want to, if I just go over some of the high level things that you can do here, let's see, yeah, there we go. Zoom in a little bit. So one of the real nice things that I've noticed that they have here is they have different ways of viewing the data in your database, right? So like this is the grid view, which is basically a table. But they also have a Kanban, they also have a calendar, a queue, and if you've got map stuff, you could do a map too. So like if we look at the Kanban, this is actually kind of nice, right? Being able to view something like this, it's not bad. And then you can obviously, move things around and do a whole bunch of different things with this. You got a calendar view where if there's a date, right? We can do the queue layout where it's got the rows over here and like it's almost like a detail view over here. You can do lots of fun little stuff. So like if I go to the status and if you double click on the header up here, you can get into this little edit field. And I can even change like the progress is not started. Like I can make that red and progress is green and completed is gray, and then like when you do stuff like this, the Kanban's kind of starting to look kind of cool, and the calendar's kind of looking kind of cool. So anyways, there's some fun stuff that you can do on here. Like we're grouping based on status, but you can do other things if you want. You can configure this detail view. You can put a filter on it. You can sort it. The thing that I saw that I thought was really, really kind of cool is once you get a view that you like, you can save that view and then you can reuse that again. That'd be pretty dope. It'd be really cool to be able to see the ability to share a view. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, that's a really dope setup that somebody made. I wish I had that. It'd be cool if I could import that. But yeah, this is the basics of what's going on here. You got this is your list of your columns over here, and I can reorder them and do things. You can click on the apps and it will show you what apps are connected to the table. That's pretty fun, and link right to it so you can open it. Yeah, lots of stuff, right? But this is obviously still very new. It's very early days, right? But I kind of feel that this is going to fill a gap for a lot of people out there where they're looking for something that's a little more structured and how to put it together, because going over to Google Sheets and just kind of doing whatever you want over there, you can, anyways, yeah. So let me know what you guys think about this new feature. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you wish was in it? Seems like this is going to be a really cool looking thing. But that is the big news of this week. We've got this new database thing to play with. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. There was another major announcement this week. This is all about how to do, I just closed the page I wanted. This shows, if I close the database, and I go back here, and let me open this. While this is opening, some of the other things that they've done is they are updating the navigation inside the editor, and they've created a easier or different way of creating slices. If you go into the announcement, you can see there's some screenshots that'll show you what's going on. There's a GIF here that shows you the process for how you can create a slice now. But if I show you that on my free account, so if you have an account that has a free license, you can see these things. It's deployed to 100% free users. And obviously you can see this over here is way different, right? Way different. So it's kind of in the same order, but things are moved around a little bit, right? You have data, you have your app. And so this is like your views and your formatting rules. Data is your tables, your columns, your slices, and you're using the user settings. Actions is just actions all by itself. It's kind of nice. Automation is automation all by itself. And then they moved all of the other stuff kind of down into this other section, right? So we've got your warnings and things are here. Any of the intelligence that you need to work on, like if you do smart assistants, predictive models, or OCR, they are here. Your security is in a little badge thing, basically the same as what it was. The real big change, though, is this settings page. What they've done is they've taken a whole bunch of the app settings that were like all over the place inside the editor. They put it right here inside this settings page. It's a singular place where you can get to all of the things that are specific for what's going on. You've got your information tab, so that was all the way up in like the info and app settings or whatever it was, right? So it's the app properties, the information for users, and the documentation. So this is more important for like, you know, for me, when I'm putting something out as a template app. So this documentation, that's where that is. You have the theme and the brand. You have the data, which is, there's a couple of things in here. Oh, that's pretty fun. It's always interesting to come into this spec and to see what the spec comes up with. You know what I mean? It's pretty crazy. Anyways, that you got any of the view control stuff, right? Views, the view localization, the performance stuff is here, offline stuff, and the integrations is down there. This is really the biggest change, is this settings page. The manage page is pretty much the same, and they have the learn, which is still down there as well. It's the settings that's different. The other major thing that they did in relation to this sort of update for the UX side of things is they've made it easier to create a slice. What they've done is they recognize that when people are creating a slice, a lot of times they're creating that slice from the perspective of a view. Like they were on a view and then they were like, oh, but I really want this to be a slice. I don't want it to be the root table. So they've made it easier to create a slice at that instance. So if I'm here and I'm on a view, right? And I'll just create a new one. You can see it. We have the for this, and there's this. There used to be a little link down here that said view data or view definition. That's that now. But if the main difference though is if I come into the drop down, I now have the ability to create new slices for each of the tables. And I really kind of like what they did here is they grouped things based on the table that you're using. I'm really kind of liking that. That's super, super nice. Yeah, that's really nice. But anyways, so you can create a new slice and then, right, blah, 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 blah. Faster way for you to create a slice. Those are the new updates for the AppSheet editor. They are released to 100% of users that are free users. It's still yet to come for anybody on a paid license, but it's coming. All right, that's all I got for this little starting section for this the weekly rundown. Let's move on to the next. All right, we're at that point in the stream where I would usually do a deep dive into some topic. Go into some sample app that I'm working on, and I would make something, or would do something of that nature. This week, I'm gonna hold off on that. I have things that I'd like to do, but looking at the time, we only got about 20 minutes left in this stream, and I'm trying to keep things to an hour's time. And the thing that I want to do is gonna take longer than that. What I was intending to do was to take the shopping cart part 8, right? So now that I've got the shopping cart to a point to where it's got totals and all of that and everything, and we're basically getting to like the end of the evolution of this app, and now we need to print that. And since I figured out the grouping part and I got it to work last time, it's tables, that's the problem. Since I got that to work, I figured, the next logical thing to do for the shopping cart is to print the file with groups. It'll take a little longer than 20 minutes to get that done, so I'm gonna hold off. So instead, the rest of this time, I'm just gonna dive right into the chat. Any questions that you guys got? Any burning things that you're working on, problems? If you'd like me to go into some kind of pseudo deep dive on a topic, let me know in the chat and I will be happy to go ahead and do this. I'm gonna dive in and let's see. Oscar Furious is all over the place. Let's see, what's he saying? I had to check the moment you introduced Shirley to know what was going on. Yeah, no, this was recorded, previously recorded. Sorry, I kind of glossed over that a little bit in the beginning. Yeah. It's actually something that I'd like to do a little more, would be to do some more pre-recorded type things like that I could intersperse throughout the live stream. Be pretty cool. Nit05 says hello. He is from Argentina. Hello. Hello from Argentina. That's pretty fun. Let's see. Oh, Shirley's here. Hi, Shirley. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. So much fun. Oscar can we expect our AppSheet databases to be able to be exported and keep working on in a SQL instance? You know, that is something that I was wondering for as well. Export, but also import. You know what I mean? Like, the thing that I really want to be able to do, right? One of the primary questions a lot of people are asking is like, well, what's sync time going to be like? Well, I have some sample data sets where it's like, I've got 1,000 projects, 10,000 users, and 100,000 time logs, all reference connected together. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of data. And what I want to do is I want to be able to like import all of that into the tables and then build an app off it and see what it would do. So import would be real nice. Let's see, Oscar says, I had a meeting yesterday with a potential client that has like 200 companies behind him. I'm not sure if AppSheet can scale that much. What's your experience? Yeah, so I guess it kind of depends on what it is you're really talking about. You know what I mean? Okay, just as a high level, right? If you build your data system appropriately using, standard data practices with some of the caveats or whatever it is, with some of the, little things that you got to do that are different for AppSheet. If you build things the right way, and like you're doing the current user system where you're locking things down and you've got security filters so that you're restricting the amount of data inside the app. If you do that and you host all of that inside a SQL server so that it can grow to basically whatever size it needs to be, I don't see any problem with having that, like having 1,000 companies using the same app. And each company could have thousands and thousands of records in their child tables with all these things reference connected together. But like, as long as you do all the reference connections and you do slices and like you do everything like the right way, so it's not heavy on the system, it'll totally work. Like the biggest problem you run into at that point is your SQL server and like managing that, you know what I mean? Because if you have security filters where you're restricting the data for a system like this, really you gotta kind of change the way you're thinking about things to where like the only data that's present in the system is whatever passed through the security filters, right? So there may be 100,000 records in the table, but like the largest of the filter results is maybe 10,000 or 20, or you know what I mean? So it's like when you're working on multi-company systems like this is definitely something to keep in mind, is not how big is the whole database going to be. You need to keep that in mind for the SQL Server, but how big is like the individual's database going to be? Because that's really what you're building for then. Ami asks, will the AppSheet database be available for all paid plans or only to enterprise? You know, that was something after I got done with the meeting with Shirley afterwards. That was really something that popped in my mind. It was like, I should have asked about licenses. You know, where's this going to be? Okay, the way that she was talking about it, and I don't know, maybe Shirley's still here. She could chime in the chat here. But the way she was talking about it, right, sounded like you know, it's a middle ground between Google Sheets and a SQL Server. So that kind of leads me to believe that like this is going to be available for everybody. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not going to be an enterprise thing. Maybe it's a core. Like maybe you couldn't have one of these things if you were on a free account, which if you kind of think about it, could kind of make sense. You know, it is a database, which, you know, there's resources involved with making that work and storing the data and doing, you know what I mean? Like it's not a free thing that's going on. There's stuff involved. So I could see it being put to something to where it's on a license. We'll see. There might be somebody might have already asked that in the comments on the announcement post. You might check over there. There's Shirley. Shirley chimed in and she says, AppSheet databases will be available for all licenses, but limits will differ for each license. Sense? Makes sense. Hamlet dropped in here. He says, hi Matt, looking for help on calculating an end date for a vacation period of employees. I need to add 14 work days to the initial thing. Mate, I have you 100%. Literally just the other day, I was building an app that is a PTO authorizer for a client of mine. And one of the things that I had to figure out was how could I take like a vacation start date and a vacation end date and calculate how many working days are in between that thing. Okay, it turned out to be not a straightforward thing. Let me find it for you. I got the app open here. Okay, so here we go. PTO requests, and then where's it at? PTO number of days. Here we go. All right, so if I bring this over, just making sure there was nothing on the screen that I couldn't show everybody on the screen. Okay, so here we go. The formula that I have, right? So I've got a vacation start and a vacation end. Okay, so if the end and the start are equal to each other, then the number of days is 1. Yep. All right. So I had to hard code that in order to make that work. But after that, actually, I don't think I probably get. Anyways, the formula here is really based on the weekday of the vacation start date, right? So I guess I should go into what it is that I'm doing in order to make this work. Okay. When I looked at this, I was kind of hoping that I still had it on my, I had to break out, when I was solving this problem, I had to break out a whiteboard and like legit look this out and do a whole bunch of really complicated things to figure it out. What I did is what I settled on was, okay, so if we just take a calendar, right? Can I get a calendar on the screen? Yes, here we go. And if I zoom in, oh, even better. Right, all right. So if we just take this calendar and we say like, okay, let's say I want to make today as my start date, right? And then the 1st is my end date. Okay, well, a way that you could calculate this would be, obviously we know that each one of these full weeks is 5 days, right? You with me on that? So like if we can just go with the assumption that The weeks that are in between the start and the end, those weeks are full complete weeks with 5 days that we need to account for. Obviously, there's some nuance in there, but just go with me, right? Okay, so the only thing I need to know now then is how many days left for the end of the week and how many days for the start of the week. Do you follow what I mean here? Like, okay, Friday is the last day. Let me change the start day to, it'll be a little easier if I do it on a Tuesday and we'll do it on a Wednesday there. Because, all right, so now the idea is how many days do I need to count forward? How many days do I need to count backwards, right? For each one of these. So I'm here, I'm counting 1, 2, 3. I'm here, I count back 1, 2, right? And then everything in between, I just multiply however many is between by 5, because that's how many days there are. Okay, so that's what this formula does. You'll see there's 3 parts to it. There's this first switch, there's this middle part, and there's a second switch. So the things that I'm doing correspond to what I was just talking about on that calendar. So the first part here, this first switch, is what you need to do in order to calculate how many days are left for the end of the week. So based on the weekday of the start date, right? If the weekday is number 7, there's no days left, right? Because we're at the end of the week. If the weekday is Sunday, then we have 5 days left because it's a start. Otherwise, we need to do some math here, and we need to take the day of the week, the number of the days of the week, minus whatever weekday the date is, and then minus 1 to make it work, right? And then all of that, we need to add 1 to account for not counting Sunday. Or I'm sorry, not counting Saturday. That's the idea, right? So if it's Saturday, there's no days left. If it's Sunday, there's 5 days left. Otherwise, take 5 minus whatever we need to give me the total number. That's what we do for the first part of the week. That gives us from like Tuesday to Friday. And then if I just skip the middle part and go down to the bottom part here, this is basically the same idea, but kind of backwards, right? If it's Saturday, there's obviously 5 days. If it's Sunday, there's not. Otherwise, I just need to count what the weekday is minus 1 because I need to take out Sunday, right? So if my end day is a Wednesday, right? That's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? But I need to take the Sunday out. So the actual number of weekdays is 3. Follow me? So then the idea is take whatever this number is and whatever this number is. So those are the 2 weird, start and trail ends. And then I just need to find out, okay, how many weeks are there? Minus 1 because we don't want to count this last week down here. And then we times that whole number by 5. Because what I'm trying to do here, if I go back to my calendar, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to say how many days from Tuesday to the end of the week, how many days from Wednesday to the start of the week, and then how many weeks between. And then based on how many weeks are between, times that by 5. This formula is now inside. Can I get all of that inside the chat? Of course not. Nope. We have a character limit of 200. I will put it in the chat, or not the chat. I will put it in the description after the stream. Booyah. Yeah, definitely a tricky thing in order to figure that out. Like I had to break out that whiteboard and start doing lines and things and connecting everything and all that. Booyah. Yeah, okay, mate. Oh man, Hamlet just threw a curveball into the mix. He said, yeah, but we need to throw holidays into that too. Mate. That is much harder. All right, the reason that's going to be much harder is, all right, so the way that this works is, okay, workday, fair enough. Workday would work. Yeah. Thanks, Oscar. I still don't know if that would account for everything. Yeah, maybe so. If I'm just over here and I'm looking at Workday, let's see, Oscar, you're on it, buddy. See, I was thinking I'd have to like create a schedule in order to show that, which is a thing that I commonly do sometimes. Yeah, so Workday returns a date computed by adjusting for the number of work days. Oh man, this is way easier. And it does a holiday thing. Oh man, how did I miss this formula? Hey, this is way easier. All right, but you see now, okay, so here's the problem though, is that I have to know the number. Dang. I have to know the number of days that Workday wants to work forward. So I guess if you were to maybe like there really needs to be some kind of mix of this. Like, you know what I mean? I need like a Workday, but like I need it to be like a when start, a when end, and then a holidays. It's kind of like end of month. Yeah, like I was thinking you might be able to get away with something like end of month, but like I don't know if that's gonna, I don't know if that would work, you know? I think what you'd have to do is do some kind of a mix of all. Exactly, Hamlet, yeah. Where like I could use Workday, but first I have to find this number, right? And that number is gonna be this formula here, because this gives you the number of days between the two dates, right? So it's kind of doing what Workday is doing in the first place, kind of. So I could do that, but then I can also list here as the secondary part all of the holidays that I want to mix out. So then like, yeah, legit, it comes down to like doing something like this, create like a holidays table where you've got like just, you know, whatever the holiday is and the date, and then you just put that list inside here. Yeah, so that's really kind of a three-parter there, you know? Like you got to do this formula to get the number. You got to have a table of holiday dates. Then you can combine all of those three into this Workday formula. Wow. Phew. That's a thing right there. Man, teamwork makes the dream work, baby. Workday. Yeah. Yes. I like that. So the way that I did it with the app that I'm working on here, right, was like I took it, this was already a table that they had, and like they've got the vacation start and end, you know, which is I'm pretty sure everybody would probably do that way anyways. Like that's what somebody's thinking. All right, I'm on a Tuesday and then on a Thursday, you know. You'll need a table of work days, in my opinion. So one of the things on that topic for work days, one of the things that I generally do, I didn't include it inside this app that I'm working on here. One of the things that I'll do is I'll actually put in like a days of the year. Like you can see I got a weeks table here where each week I have an automation that goes through and makes, you know, the new week record so that we've always got the next week going in the system. Usually sometimes what I'll do, I'm trying to see if I can't find a thing where I did it. Nope, I didn't do it in this app either. I have some app somewhere where I did this. It's just a matter of finding it. What I'll usually do, is I'll throw in like a days of the week, a days of the year table. And the idea is it has one record for each day of the year. And then I'll have, just like I showed you for like, I have an automation that creates a weekly record. I'll have an automation that creates a daily record. But the idea is that original table can serve as like a template for things. Yeah, here we go. So this is an app I'm working on. It's a scheduling thing. And the idea with this one is I've got like this yearly schedule template. Whoop, if I switch over here, sorry. I've got this yearly schedule template. And the idea here is like I've got one record for each day of the year, but then like what I can do is then I can go inside here and I can say, you know, are we closed for this day? Is this a holiday? You know, like I've got my birthday marked as a holiday. So, I mean, like you can do things like this. And then like you can take this table and then use that for a bunch of things elsewhere, right? Like I use this because like you can say, are we closed this day? Because maybe you've got like a standard time where, you know, in July we shut down for whatever, yeah, I don't even know. Or for Christmas, like you're shut down at the end of the year, like you just take the last week of the year off all the time, every time. So you could just, those are done, right? That's the idea. Really kind of going along the lines of like the blueprint table, like that's such a common element in building an AppSheet app where I've got one table over here which got a set of records, and then I've got another table over here where I'm basically copying or using the details over there for whatever's going on over here. Like that's something that I use so much all the time. It's not even funny. Let's see. Hamlet says, my usual problem was that sometimes the end date would fall on a holiday. I move it up and it lands on a Sunday, then move it up and it lands on another holiday. Yeah. When you get to a thing like that, mate, yeah, let me show you what I did in another app that I've been working on forever is a SLA Ticketing App. And that falls within the same sort of problem, Hamlet, that you're talking about there, where like I've got, so this is an SLA ticketing thing. And so we're talking about, you know, somebody calls in and they say, I need some help with whatever. And then they've got like a support tier that says, we'll get to you by, you know, 5 days, right? So we need to know those 5 days, or maybe it's like 5 hours or something. So you obviously have to have all that info inside the system. And if I show you, this has the same sort of thing where like I've got a weekly schedule built into the system, and it shows, you know, like these are the standard hours for when we're open versus if we're closed. So that's the weekly schedule. And then on top of that, I've got a yearly schedule where we can say, you know, we're closed for whatever, you know, if we're closed this day or not. Okay, so the thing that I did in order to make this work, so the idea, right, is I've got a SLA ticket that's got a support level, and after a certain amount of time, if nobody's dealt with that ticket, it needs to be escalated, right? So what we're really talking about is there's this variable time that we have to figure out. Somebody put a time for the start, a date time, and then we need to project that forward, whatever, right? So the method that I chose to do that, if I go in here to my ticket, right, so we've got this open timestamp, right? So that's the start of it. The ticket obviously has a customer that it's connected to. The customer has a support tier that they belong to. The support tier has a number on it that says 15 hours, 48 hours. You know what I mean? So there's a number somewhere that's connected to the customer. So when I submit the ticket, I can get that number through that sort of reference chain. And then it's just a matter of taking that start time and progressing that forward. Okay, so this is where it gets crazy. Let's see if we can't undo this again. Okay, so live days past, resume, ticket remaining time. Here we go. All right, so right, the projected response time. Okay, that's the thing that I need to go and find, because that's the thing where it's saying, where is the next thing? Projection timeline. Here we go. Projected response time. All right, so the idea is, this is nuts in here. Oh man, this is crazy. All right, so if the remaining hours on the thing is 0, right? Okay. If that's true, then what I want it to do is I want it to set this time to its whatever the initial time is plus the customer's response, max response time. Okay, that's the first part. So if it's a 0, I want this to display what is the maximum time that this was supposed to be at, right? Okay, that's like if it's done. So if it's not, if it hasn't done that yet, if it's not equal to 0, the projected forward, then what I need to do is I need to take, let me zoom in again, I need to take the open time plus, okay, and then you see here the ticket remaining hours to project forward minus hours from the middle dates. We're getting weird. Let me go show this one. This SLA hours to project forward. Okay. Ticket remaining SLA response. Ticket remaining SLA response to project forward. Here we go. So this guy is really the column that's doing all the heavy lifting. This is the one, it's duration. What I'm really saying is how far forward do we have to go? Like, are we, like, do you get what I mean by that? Okay. Ignore the first part. That's for continuing a thing on. So if the ticket's max response time, I know it's all really kind of smushed together. If the ticket's max response time is less than the ticket's today's remaining initial whatever, so the remaining time, if the maximum response time is less than whatever we're saying that's left, there's nothing left. Otherwise, take the maximum response time. So like we've said that they have a support tier of 48 hours. Okay. Take that 48-hour number, right? And minus from that whatever is left for today, right? Because we've got this ticket that's open. I've said that it's got 48 hours that it needs to do. So then take that 48 hours and minus from it whatever's left from the initiation. Okay, so what does that mean? So when I initiate the ticket, right, I take that start time and I project this forward. That gives me how far I need to go from the initial point of creation, right? And that just gives me that initial number. Then I can take that number and I can minus that from the total response time. So if we have today, right? Like, okay, like right now, it's 11 a.m. Let's say I have a close time of 5, right? 5 p.m. So that means that I've got 6 hours left for today. So this field is saying, all right, take 48 minus 6. That's how many hours we need to project forward after today. Okay. From that, it then becomes this process of doing exactly what you're talking about there, Hamlet, to where I look forward each day and I add to that how many hours there is for that day. So if I'm on, like, today's a Friday and let's say we're closed for the weekend. So there's 6 hours left for today. So it would be 48 minus 6. And then, so then I've got 42 hours left, answered everything in the universe. I've got 42 hours left to go. All right, Saturday, there's no time for that day. So we still have 42. Sunday, there's no time for that. So we still have 42. Monday, say Monday's a holiday and we're closed. There's no hours for that. So we're still at 42. When we get to Sunday, do you see where I'm going? Like, it is this sort of, you've got to have this thing, this formula that's projecting all of this stuff forward in that way. Let's see. So the thing that I did here, so obviously we've got how many hours from the start to the end of that day. Then we need to figure out how many days are there in the middle, right? So that's where this guy, ticket middle dates, projections to date, whatever that means. The idea is I've got this virtual column that is maybe it's not a virtual column, but I've got this list of the middle response dates included. So I've said we started it on Friday at 11, right? And so then I need to project that forward 42 hours worth of time, okay? So the thing I'm doing is I've got these response dates with their time on them for each day. So if I go over here and I look at this yearly schedule over here, if I go to like January and I just look at one of these records, you can see each one of these, like Saturday, no hours, Sunday, no hours, Monday, 8 hours, 8, 8, 8, 8. What I've done is I've created that yearly schedule table, and on that table, I have a column that shows me how many hours for that day, for that one day, right? Because then I can do something to where I can say, cool, from Friday, project me forward a number of days where the sum of all of those hours is less than the number I need to project forward. I need to project forward 42 hours, okay? Sum for me, all of those daily records where the sum of all of their hours is less than 42, because that's going to give me all of the complete dates in the middle. And then it's just a matter of summing all of the hours in the middle. And then I just got to figure out from the start of that last day to whatever the hour is that we need to stop at, when is that time? And that's just a matter of saying, what's the start date for that last date plus whatever we have left, right? So we were at 42, maybe we progressed forward, we got rid of 40 hours. So we got 2 hours left to do. So then on that last day, we take it start time plus 2. But you see what's involved in order to get there? Craziness. Craziness. Yeah, man. Good stuff. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up here unless there is any kind of burning questions. Oscar says, another one that's related to the same client, we need to integrate data from a big number of companies, suppliers of each company. How do you deal with CSV import to make it as UX easy as possible? Any other ideas that doesn't involve CSV import? All right, Oscar. So, what we're talking about there. All right. I generally don't like giving people access to the data source, right? So like the other option you were asking about if we didn't do a CSV upload, right, would be just give them access to the sheet. Paste your stuff inside the sheet. Don't like doing that. Plus, I like to run things through AppSheet. We can get the initial value to create, an ID that we want to use. We can get a creation, but like all the metadata stuff from the standard starting template gets put inside there. So that's what I like to do. The way that I do this, is, okay, if you go, I'm not sure if that's available anymore. No, I'll have to put it up there. If you're a Patreon supporter of mine, I have a protocol guide that you can walk through that walks you through how to create a data importing system, right? Because in order to do this, there are some things that you need to do in order to make it nice. And this app doesn't have that. See, does this one? This one does. Here we go. The thing that I do in order to make data importing easier is to create a legit space inside the app that you can use to import data. It's here strictly for this sort of thing. And there's a lot involved in getting this to work, but the high level of this is you need 2 tables. One is this table here. I like to provide this here because it provides you a space in which to provide information about what's going on, right? And then I have a secondary table. So I have this import main screen, and then I have table instructions. And so that's what this is here. So the importing main screen is, a high level thing to give you it's like a splash screen. Really, it's here to provide a space to show these detail records. And these detail records, the idea is for every table that you need to import, you create an import box over here and a corresponding record here. And in the record, this is where you can tell people like, these are the columns that have to have a value, right? And then you can upload the CSV that person needs to use. So when they need to upload their data, right, it's easy. They just come here to the main menu, go to data importing, download the CSV that they get. There's a couple of ways that I've done this. Like this one, you can see it's running, it's running an automation right now. What I did here is, because some of the values that are inside the CSV are specific to the to whatever company I'm working with, say, that means that the actual let me here I have it, here we are. That means that the actual values that I need to use inside the cells are very specific. So what I've done is I've created a way to where it will just pull all of that information and just make it work. So that automation kicked off an email, and this is the email that I got. I've got this instructions page that says, you know, these are the things that are required. This is what you need to do in order to whatever. These fields are required, and these are the values that you can put inside them, so on and so forth, right? That's the idea, and then it comes with the CSV that I need to use. But what I've done is I've already provided some of the key components that make the whole system work. Like I need some parent reference things inside there, and they have to be the values from like the database. I used an automation to create this CSV template, taking those values and putting them into the cell. So all the user needs to do is copy this row, essentially, right? Copy whatever value is in this down into all the other cells. So that's what I do to try and make it easier for a person to do the import stuff, right? I provide them an easy way to get the information that they need. I provide an easy way to get the files that they need that have any kind of hyper-specific values. You know, you could either do the CSV thing like this, or you could just upload the file and have them download it. I do that too. And then part two is you have this space where this is based on a slice. That's this importing. It's based on the whatever table I want to import, but you know it's false, so it doesn't show any records. And it's got this import CSV action on it. But like this is the way that I try and make things easy for people, because yeah, being able to get large amounts of data into the system initially, like when you're first starting off, needs to be easy, needs to be fast, quick, simple. So I personally found that providing like a legit space, like a legit page on my app in which somebody could go in order to do all of this importing stuff, it seems to be the smoothest. I've yet to have anybody kind of run into any kind of problems or complaints. Let's see, what else? Oscar says, I have CSV import working, but I'm the user, so I know what I'm doing. But that involves that I know, or yeah. So that, yeah, the idea of instead of just providing them the ability to download the CSV template, instead make a system to where you can kick off an automation that sends them the CSV template file. But in the email, right, you can provide all kinds of stuff that you need. And what I would do there is, you know, you could hard code all of that, or I don't really like to hard code things. I would make a table where you could like just a table for template information, you know what I mean? And like in the table have one record for each of the templates, for each of the CSV things that you're sending out. That way you can provide all of the details that you need in there. And then it's just a matter of like printing the record and sending the CSV with it. Yeah, man. Let's see what else. The no record shown view with this is good. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, the this view over this little setup over here, this is really kind of the evolution of a lot of trial and error, working with users over time and like trying one way and seeing if it would work, trying another way and seeing if it would work, and basically finding all of the ways that don't work. Yeah. The other way that I've done it before is, okay, I'll just throw this out there. I found this one works pretty well. Instead of providing an importing space here, right? The other thing that you could do, I think I did it on this one. If I go to, no, not here. Maybe it's not this app. It's not this one. I can't remember. Anyways, the thing that I do is instead of providing a space here inside the main menu for dedicated importing, what I'll do is I'll just provide those buttons in the places where the people need to do it. So like here on this, like if I wanted to provide them a way to upload their list of rooms, right? I would just provide a set of buttons up here. One that's like the download the CSV, and the second one, which is upload a CSV, right? And so then when I'm in the specific context of the thing that I'm trying to do, there's buttons right there. Yeah, man, all better ones, right? That's the thing with AppSheet. 4,000 ways to do it.
Where are you going? Another way. Always another way.
Always another way. Let's see, last little bits. All right, Oscar, makes sense since the FK, what's FK? Is basically the most difficult. I could just make them navigate through the app to a hyper-specific CSV import view where they already select the ref records in the app. Yeah, that's definitely it. That's what doing it like this, foreign keys, I got you. Yeah, absolutely. Setting those sort of like references and things. Yeah, that was the thing that like I ran into the most difficulty with, because it's like, well, what do? I provide you the values in the email. Well, now you got to read the email, which means you've actually read the email. And sometimes that can get pretty long. People don't read long things, right? All right, that's a problem. And then you're also relying that like they're copying, pasting, and they're not typing it in, right? Because it's got to be the exact string. So I'm still kind of struggling with that. Like even when you do it like this, to where you provide the keys inside the whatever fields that they need to be there, sometimes people just don't copy the thing down. And the real difficulty that you run into with the CSV import thing is like, if anything fails inside, like I have 50 records inside there, if a single one of those fails, the entire thing fails. And so, do you get what I mean? So like that's where the pain point really kind of starts coming into play, is people don't do things right. So I traditionally try and remove all of those sort of reference fields that I can out of the mix. If I can just create it to where when they do the CSV upload, I've got all of the initial values set in such a way to where it works with the data that I've asked the person to use, so that it works correctly. See what I mean? I feel like I want to touch on one more subject on this import thing. There's another thing that you can do when you're doing this, when you're doing things like this. If I go and I look at this app over here, the thing that you can do is, so when you're kicking off your CSV import, right? Okay, you can kick off automations based on a new record in whatever table you're talking about. One of the problems that I'll usually face is that the data that the person is uploading in their CSV is like a child record that's, layers deep inside the database. So what happens if they add something that doesn't have the appropriate parent records? That record's just going to get dropped in there, and it's going to be like, hey man, I don't know what this value is. I can't use it. It'll probably cause an error and break the whole thing. What you can do, you can make an automation. Oh, this one doesn't have it either. You can make an automation that will run based on whenever a new record is added into the mix, that if it sees that the value inside the parent record isn't inside the table, create it. There you go, problem solved. And in that way, I can give people the ability to add child records into the table, but if I give them spaces inside that CSV to add the name of the company, the name of the project, the name of the territory, whatever, right? And then like when those things don't exist, I can just make them. And then so it's like I start down here at the bottom, and when they insert the records there, it fills all of the top records that need to be filled in. There's a lot of stuff. And like that system, the whole, hey, there's a new record in the table, kick off an automation process. You can put anything inside that chain, right? Like, oh, hey, there's a new record, make the parent, and then link that, and then do a search and find all of the records that match the thing, and then change all of those, and then do this, and then make some other records over there, and then you can get crazy with this. Crazy. Luis Rodriguez asked, one question, Matt, does the virtual columns referred to Does the virtual columns referred to in a slice that's based on a child table, can I add data on the form view of the parent table? What do you mean? Do the virtual columns referred to in a slice that's based on a child table, can I add data on the form view of the parent? Not sure what you mean there, Luis. A little more. Let's see, Oscar, if I can CSV import on an inline view that already has the foreign keys based on the context, this is done. Kinda, yeah. It's like creating a batch of records or looping or creating via the API. Basically, yeah. Yeah. The thing that I've largely found, like I don't use the API like hardly at all, because there's very little that the API does that you can't do with automation. Very little. And both of those are running on the server, so it's not like one's faster than the other. Do you know what I mean? Like they're both running a kind of basically, probably they're both using the same mechanisms, to be honest. Like the way that the API adds records to the table, that thing is probably the same way that the automation adds a record to a table. It's probably the same mechanism, like the same internal action, if you will. You know what I mean? I bet you it's all modularly built like that. I almost guarantee it. But yeah, lots of fun stuff that you can do with CSV imports. There's obviously, it's a complex sort of system because if you don't get it right, you don't get it right and it doesn't work. But yeah, lots of fun stuff to do there. I'm going to call this a day. Thanks for joining in, everybody. I do appreciate all of the questions, all of the engagement that you guys got. For real, you guys are the stars. If you guys weren't showing up and engaging like this, I would not do this. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Y'all are the stars. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe out there. Enjoy your weekend. See you in the community, everybody.